Hello, Electronic Literature Organization. We are thrilled to come together with you here in this virtual conference, in this virtual environment, and to have the opportunity to share our presentation with you, Entwining the Data, a digital arts-based representation of research. A central theme of this work is exploring the entangled materiality of any technology, platform, digital literacy, or virtual environment. We try in our work to bring in visceral, embodied, and land-based forms of knowing into this virtual digital space. Therefore, even in this context, we feel it's imperative to acknowledge the entangled nature of the lands and histories that hold us and allow us to come together in these digital spaces. I'm now living and working and dreaming in Gibsons, BC, which is the territory of the Sea-Shelt and Squamish First Nations. I feel incredibly grateful to the land, the light, and the peoples I share this land with, and feel all this rich assemblage infuses the creative work and research that I do.
I, on the other hand, am located in Burnaby, in British Columbia, Canada. Therefore, I want to acknowledge that I am located on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Hankanimun and Squamish-speaking people, and I want to extend my appreciation for the opportunity to hold this presentation from the shared territory.
My name is Rachel Horst, and I'm a PhD student in the Language and Literacy Education Department at UBC. I'm interested in digital literacy and the digital humanities, arts-based research, and futures storying and imagining.
My name is Esteban Morales, and I am also a PhD student at the Language and Literacy Education program at the University of British Columbia. I'm mostly interested in critical digital literacies and peace education in Latin America. In this presentation, we will explore a digital arts-based representation of data gathered from the patch, a writing and reading project conducted in the Digital Literary Center at the University of British Columbia. The patch is a workshop that is designed as a series of writing and reading interventions that are connected as a circuit, as you can see in the figure. In the workshops, we start with an input text, in this case, the short story by Jorge Luis Borges on exactitude and science, that is transformed throughout different mediations, which include but are not limited to text, video, and sonification. The patch is, overall, a collaborative human-computer performance where we as researchers, artists, pedagogues, and learners seek to understand the different texts throughout this mapping and unmapping. By following this series of guided transmediations that combines both the digital and the analog, the individual and the collaborative, the people involved in the patch see how the input text begins to loosen its linguistic and logical organization, encouraging participants to explore the different geographies of the text in each of the steps of our workshop. We have conducted these workshops several times in the past, including among art-based communities and teacher candidates in Vancouver. We also wrote a paper on the patch that will be published soon, where we present and discuss its different components, their theoretical background, and implications. And however, while this traditional approach was a useful exercise, we felt constrained by the linearity of the traditional social science academic paper genre, which prevent us to properly explore the different data transmediations that happen in the patch. In this presentation, we are going to share with you the process of representing our data in the form of an interactive narrative artifact using the Twine platform that we are in the process of creating. More specifically, we're interested in exploring how remapping the data could allow us to better adjust the affordances of this digital space. We will share with you how this process permitted us to newly encounter both the theoretical ideas and the data that ground the patch as an art-based research methodology and pedagogy.
As Esteban was saying, the academic papers seem to subvert the kinds of innovative, nonlinear, poetic meaning-making we generated throughout the patch. While the patch is a processual workshop that necessarily exists in time, we felt that the qualitative data gathered in each stage in the form of intuitive and collaborative networks of vocabulary, poetic lines, and evolving collaborative meaning and performance, that this rich data could move in different directions and combinations. We turned to Twine for its interactive, nonlinear platform. In a sense, we imagined that Twine could do for our workshop what a network analysis software like Infinitus can do for a text. It can obliterate the movement of time and sequence and allow the reader, visitor to move through the data of each process in any direction they wish. We imagined that this freedom of movement and interaction might allow for new meanings, poetic combinations, and narratives to emerge from the data. Twine is a free browser-based tool designed by Chris Klimas in 2009 and uses HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build branching stories and hypertext fiction. The platform has been widely taken up by game developers and lauded as a democratization of game design. I have to admit right off the bat that I'm neither a gamer and I'm only a new initiate into the world of hypertext digital fiction. My interest in Twine for the purposes of an extension of the Patch workshop was to explore the affordances and constraints of this environment. We collaborate with our technologies. As Catherine Hales wrote in 1993, different technologies of text production suggest different models of signification. Changes in signification are linked with shifts in consumption. Shifting patterns of consumption initiate new experiences of embodiment. An embodied experience interacts with codes of representation to generate new kinds of textual worlds. We were interested in exploring the emergent world that is the collaboration between Twine the platform, our collaborative data, and the glitchy interface of our own lack of fluency in this artistic medium. In this project, we extend our ongoing work, looking at the interagential collaborations between ourselves and our technologies. We are interested in digital literacy as an effective encounter generated through ongoing reassembling of the human and the more than human. The first step in developing this Twine was, in a sense, to subvert the Twine. As I said, Twine is most accessible as a text-based, interactive narrative interface. But we wanted to also include multimedia, multimodality in the form of image, film, sound. These transmediatory modalities are central to the Patch's workshop. And representing these modes was important for us in retaining the embodied, visceral placeness and the analog aspect of the workshop. I spent many hours on social media platforms with many different users telling me that what I wanted to do was either not possible or not possible on Harlow and perhaps possible on SugarCube. I had fallen into rather than chosen the Harlow format and was learning CSS and HTML and fits and starts. I finally figured out how to create a map of an image and clickable links that aligned with each stage of the initial Patch schematic. And from this map, we were able to conceive of the landscape of the Twine. And Esteban and I were able to begin collaborating on fleshing out this world space of our data. As we entangled ourselves with the Twine and its functionalities and affordances, ideas began to emerge for interactive ways of engaging with the data that we had not anticipated beforehand. For example, in this stage of the workshop, the initial text undergoes different transformations. It became important for me to have the initial text visualized, as well as the fleeting transformations as one traverses the algorithm, and then the output data, all in one Twine passage.
At this stage in the Patch, we use the tool iReadFast to display the input text at an increasing speed, inviting participants to write down as many words as they see as possible. We do this to invite participants to abandon linear comprehension of the text, while promoting a creative approach to reading that is full of emotion, desire, and intuition. While in our workshop this stage represents a transformation from digital to analog data, in our remapping of the Patch, we try to replicate the logic of the activity by creating a video that will display the words at an increasing speed, and participants are allowed to take notes at the inferior section of the web page. Participants at the end of stage 2 usually work on their own collection of poetic utterances by choosing different terms of the display lists of words and expression, so they cut them up and reassemble them into a poem. This process is very collaborative, which is not possible to replicate in our Twine. However, we decided to replicate the activity by pre-selecting some words, which will allow users to form poetic clusters, like this. to then write down the poem in the inferior section of the website. At the beginning of stage 3B in the patch, the analog data is digitized again by writing down the composed poems in computers or other devices. The poems then are sonified by using a text-to-MIDI program we developed called Singling, which translates textual features into musical sequencing commands. In our project, we work with poems created by members of the Digital Literacy Center, which were digitized and sonified using different parameters. For example, really listen to this poem. Along with the digitalization and sonification of the poems, participants in the patch do a collaborative performance of their poem. Their voices are turned into a textual network by using the software Infranodus, which converts the voice to text and then into a network. The resulting graph is a map, a two-dimensional representation of the text that breaks it linearly, allowing new readings of the poem. In our Twine, we show in videos how words are turned into textual network while the author is reading it, allowing users to act and interact with the graph at the same time. See this one, for example.
Africa united the Soviet population. Citizens playing into today mathematical entireties of being. The single-valued aesthetic of the metropolis, siphoned into Egyptian winters. Mathematical enterprise, this mapping of winters. Our instantiation of the Twine as representation of our qualitative and poetic data is still very much a work in progress. The deeper we move into this environment, the more we can see the possibilities within the code. Throughout this process, we have encountered glitches and code breakages, but these have been opportunities for literacy to really take root and blossom. Our work in the Digital Literacy Center kind of hones in on these glitchy moments when the program or interface falters. These can be generative, fruitful moments of discovery. As Pina and James write, errors can cause the entire system to fail. We might wonder how something so seemingly insignificant as a missed quotation or colon or missed DNA pairing can have such dramatic outcomes. That is because all controlled or coded events, which is all creative phenomena, entail both a goal, sometimes quite a simple goal, and a very complex series of constraints that are like gatekeepers to achieving that goal.
After working for some time on this Twine, my biggest reflection is how much this process unveiled a new way to see the data and learn from it. It was not a simple translation of the workshop, but another transmediation itself. Two of the aspects that condition our engagement with the platform are worth noting. First, the time. What I mean is that there was a different time of engagement with the platform. Second, collaboration, which is not easily translated into Twine, but allow for a more personal connection with the transmediations. These constraints and affordances allow me, personally, to learn a great deal of the process, which makes me reflect on the pedagogical affordances that this could have in relation to the traditional version of the patch.
Upon reflection, I am again reminded about the many intervening and assembling agencies in any artifact, virtual or otherwise, whether it is this Twine narrative or the video documenting the process of this narrative. This has been an interagential collaboration between both Esteban and I, our evolving Twine-based literacies, the technologies we're using, as well as the notable time and history in which we have collaborated, this virtual space and the virtual conference of ELO. I feel we have not nearly yet tapped the potential of this interactive platform for data representation in particular. In fact, I feel our work has honed in on a real potential space for further exploration and development for representation of qualitative data by pushing the boundaries and limitations of the interactive narrative platform of Twine.